I'm looking at my phone, watching the request from my mother flash across the screen. Third time this week. Can we talk about that loan? It reads. My thumb hovers over the keyboard, and for a split second, I feel that old familiar pull. The instinct to fix things, to smooth things over, to be the good daughter. Then I remember the invoice. 6 months ago, my mother texted me a photo. Not a cute picture of the family dog. Not a throwback from my childhood. An invoice. $23,000. For my brother Derek's wedding venue. His third wedding venue. She'd attached a little message. Worth every penny to see him happy, with a heart emoji. I'd stared at that photo for a long time. $23,000. Just for the venue. Let me back up, because this story doesn't start with a wedding invoice or a loan request. It starts 32 years ago, in a split-level house in suburban Columbus, Ohio, with 2 kids who learned very early that love in our family wasn't divided equally. It was awarded. Based on criteria I never quite figured out how to meet. My name is Sarah. I'm the older sibling by 3 years, which in most families might mean something, some kind of authority, some recognition of being first. In our family, it meant I got to watch from the front row, as every resource, every bit of attention, every ounce of emotional energy got funneled toward my younger brother. He was the only plant in the garden that mattered. Derek was born when I was 3. And according to family legend, I was initially excited about having a baby brother. There's a photo somewhere of me holding him in the hospital, my chubby toddler hands carefully supporting his head while my mother looked on. I don't remember that moment, but I remember what came after. I remember being 5 years old, bringing home my first perfect spelling test. All 10 words correct, with a gold star sticker that smelled like artificial grape. I'd been so proud. I ran into the kitchen where Mom was feeding Derek, and I held up that paper like it was a trophy. That's great, honey, she said, not looking up from the airplane spoon she was maneuvering toward his mouth. It stayed there for 2 days, before it got buried under Derek's finger painting. A chaotic smear of brown and yellow that Mom said looked so creative and really showed his artistic side. He was 2. That became the pattern. I learned it the way you learn anything in childhood, through repetition, and the slow understanding that this is just how things are. Derek's macaroni art was museum quality. My honor roll certificates were nice. Derek's first day of kindergarten required a full photo shoot and a celebratory dinner at his favorite restaurant. My first day of middle school got a "have a good day" called over Mom's shoulder. Dad was around, but he was the kind of around that's really a form of absence. He worked in insurance, and he brought that same energy home. Present in body, but his mind somewhere in actuarial tables and risk assessments. When conflict arose between Derek and me, his solution was always the same. You're the older one, Sarah. Be the bigger person. I became very good at being the bigger person. I became excellent at it. When Derek was 7 and I was 10, he broke my CD player. The one I'd saved my allowance for months to buy. Not accidentally. He'd gotten mad about something, some slight I can't even remember now, and he'd thrown it down the stairs. The screen cracked. The disc door wouldn't close. It was garbage. Mom's response? He didn't mean it. You know he has trouble controlling his emotions. But it was mine, I said, holding the broken pieces. I saved for it. I'll get me either. You another one, she promised. She never did. But 2 months later, Derek got a brand new PlayStation for his birthday. When I pointed out the unfairness, I got lectured about jealousy and how not everything is a competition. Except it was always a competition. And Derek was the only competitor who mattered. High school crystallized everything. I was a good student. Not brilliant, Not gifted, but solid. I made honor roll consistently, joined the debate team, volunteered at the local library on weekends. I was building a college application, brick by brick, because I understood even then that education was my exit strategy. Derek was Derek. Charming when he wanted to be, manipulative when he needed to be. He figured out early that rules were suggestions, and consequences were things that happened to other people. He skipped class. He talked back to teachers. He got caught with weed in his locker sophomore year. Each crisis was met with the same pattern. Mom rushing to his defense, making excuses, finding someone else to blame. The school was too strict. The teachers had it out for him. He was just going through a phase. He needed support, not punishment. I watched her transform into a one-woman legal defense team every time Derek screwed up. And I noticed something. She had infinite energy for his crises, and none for my successes. When I got accepted to Ohio State with a partial scholarship, Mom's reaction, "That's wonderful, sweetie." Then, in the same breath, Derek's guidance counselor says he might not graduate on time. I'm so worried about him. My college acceptance became a footnote in the ongoing saga of Derek's struggle to do the bare minimum. Here's what nobody tells you about being the unfavored child. You don't stop trying. That's what you'd think, right? That at some point, you'd just give up. Stop seeking approval. Stop caring. But it doesn't work that way. You try harder. You achieve more. You think, irrationally, that maybe this next thing will be the thing that finally makes them see you. I graduated college in 4 years. Degree in accounting. Got a job at a mid-sized firm. I rented a studio apartment in Cleveland that I could barely afford. But I paid my own bills. I was independent by 22. Derek dropped out of community college after 1 semester. He moved back home. He was 21 and living in his childhood bedroom, working part-time at Best Buy, spending his money on video games and weed. Mom never charged him rent. He's getting back on his feet, she explained when I asked about it during a holiday visit. He's been getting back on his feet for 3 years, I said. Not everyone follows the same timeline, Sarah. You were always so driven. Derek needs more support. That word. Support. It became her favorite euphemism for enabling. When Derek was 24, he got his girlfriend pregnant. Her name was Melissa. She seemed nice enough. Young, a little overwhelmed, working as a waitress at Applebee's. They'd been dating for 7 months. Mom was thrilled. I'm going to be a grandmother, she announced on Facebook, before Derek and Melissa had even decided what they were going to do. They decided to get married. Of course they did. Mom decided they would get married. And when Mom decided something for Derek, it happened. The wedding cost $38,000. I know this because Mom told me. Not asking for help. At that point, I was just starting out in my career, barely keeping my own head above water. But she told me the amount with this mixture of pride and martyrdom. It's worth it, she said. Every parent wants to give their child a beautiful wedding. I didn't point out that I wasn't married and had never been offered anything resembling a wedding fund. I'd learned by then that pointing out the disparity just made me the bad guy. Wedding number 1 was elaborate. There were ice sculptures, there was a live band, there were 200 guests eating filet mignon and Chilean sea bass. Melissa looked beautiful, in a dress that cost more than my car. Derek looked pleased with himself, in a way that made my skin crawl. The marriage lasted 19 months. Melissa left when she caught Derek cheating with one of her friends. She took their daughter Emma and moved back in with her parents 2 states away. Derek was devastated, not because he'd lost his family, but because his meal ticket had walked out. Melissa's parents had money, and Derek had gotten comfortable with that lifestyle. Mom's response to the divorce? That woman trapped him with a baby. She never appreciated what she had. I stayed quiet. I learned that defending people who'd wronged Derek was a waste of breath. 2 years later, Derek got engaged again. Her name was Amanda, pharmaceutical sales rep he'd met at the gym. She made good money. She drove a BMW. Derek had upgraded. Wedding number 2 cost $41,000. I got the breakdown in a series of texts from Mom. The venue in the mountains, the destination wedding aspect, a weekend retreat for 50 people at a resort, the custom suits, the designer dress, the flowers shipped in from Ecuador. "He's so happy," Mom texted. "He deserves this, after what Melissa put him through." I was 30 years old by then. I'd been promoted twice. I'd bought a small condo. I was dating someone seriously for the first time in years. I was building an actual adult life. Nobody in my family asked about any of it. Amanda and Derek's marriage lasted 2 years. It ended when Amanda found out Derek had racked up $30,000 in credit card debt, gambling online. He'd hidden it from her, had been lying about working overtime, when really he was spending hours at digital poker tables, convincing himself he could win it all back. Amanda filed for divorce and moved to Arizona. Derek moved back in with Mom. He was 31 years old. "He's going through a rough time," Mom said when I came home for Christmas that year. Derek was in the basement, playing video games, unemployed. He needs family support right now. "What about boundaries?" I asked carefully. "What about consequences?" Mom's face hardened. "You've always been so judgmental. Not everyone can be perfect like you, Sarah." Perfect. The word tasted like ashes. I wasn't perfect. I was just functional. I paid my bills, showed up to work, didn't burn my life down every few years and expect someone else to rebuild it for me. Since when was basic adulting considered perfection? I went back to Cleveland the next day, cutting my visit short. The setup. Derek met Jennifer at a car dealership. He was buying a used Honda Civic, with Mom's money, naturally. And Jennifer was his sales associate. She was 26, recently divorced herself, with a 5-year-old son named Tyler. They were engaged within 4 months. When Mom called to tell me, I was at my desk, reviewing a client's quarterly taxes. I put her on speaker and kept working. "He's really found the one this time," she said, her voice bright with hope, or delusion. With Mom, it was hard to tell the difference. "Jennifer is wonderful. She's so good with Derek. She understands him." "That's great, Mom," I said, typing numbers into a spreadsheet. "They're thinking about a spring wedding. Maybe something at that vineyard outside Columbus? I went there for a friend's daughter's wedding last year, and it was just beautiful." Something in my chest went tight. "That sounds expensive." "Well, yes, but Derek deserves a beautiful wedding. He's been through so much." He'd been through so much. The man had imploded 2 marriages through his own selfishness and lack of responsibility. And he'd been through so much. "How much are we talking?" I asked, even though I knew I shouldn't. "I haven't gotten all the quotes yet, but probably around 60,000, maybe a bit more. They want to do it right this time." $60,000 for his 3rd wedding. I stopped typing. "Mom, that's a lot of money. It's worth it to see him happy. You paid for his first 2 weddings, and I'll pay for his 3rd. What kind of mother would I be if I didn't support my son? The kind who lets him experience consequences. The kind who teaches him that actions have outcomes. The kind who doesn't bankrupt herself funding his revolving door of poor decisions." "What about retirement?" I asked instead. "Dad's been gone for 3 years. You're living on his life insurance and Social Security. $60,000 is..." "I can handle my own finances, Sarah." The edge in her voice was sharp. This was the line I wasn't supposed to cross. Pointing out reality. Suggesting that maybe, Enabling Derek for 35 years hadn't done him any favors. The wedding planning consumed the next 9 months of Mom's life. Every conversation became about floral arrangements and catering options, and whether the string quartet was worth the extra $2,000. It was, according to Mom. Derek had exquisite taste. I was invited, obviously. I was the sister. I was expected to show up. Smile. Pretend this was normal. I bought a plane ticket. I bought a gift from the registry. Nice towels. Expensive ones. I requested the day off work. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mom called. I need a huge favor. My stomach dropped. What's up? Jennifer's maid of honor dropped out. Some work conflict. I was wondering if you could step in? Step in. As if this was some minor inconvenience, not a fundamental role in the wedding party. As if I was the backup plan, the safety net, the one you call when your real choices fall through. Mom, I'm not really close with Jennifer. We've met twice. But you're Derek's sister. Family should support family. There it was again. Support. The word that meant, do what I want without questioning. I don't think that's appropriate, I said slowly. I'm happy to attend as a guest, but being in the wedding party when I barely know the bride feels weird. So you're saying no. Her voice went cold. You're saying no to your brother on his wedding day. I'm saying no to being a last-minute stand-in maid of honor for someone who isn't a close friend. You've always been so selfish. The word hit like a slap. Selfish. Me. The one who'd never asked for anything, who'd paid her own way, who'd watched tens of thousands of dollars get poured into her brother's life, while she got congratulations and nothing else. I'm not doing this, I said quietly. I'll see you at the wedding. I hung up. She didn't call back. The wedding was exactly what you'd expect. Excessive. Beautiful in that Instagram-perfect way that has no soul behind it. Jennifer looked happy. Derek looked satisfied. Mom looked exhausted and triumphant, like she'd just completed a marathon she'd been running for years. I sat in the back, alone, and watched my brother get married, for the 3rd time, with a ceremony that cost more than I'd ever been offered for anything. I drank too much champagne. I left before the dancing started. That was September. In February, Mom called. Can we have lunch next time you're in town? I was planning to visit for a weekend, mainly to see some old college friends. Sure, what's going on? Let's talk in person. That's never good. In person means I need something I can't ask for over the phone. We met at a Panera, which felt somehow perfect. Neutral territory. Cheap enough that neither of us was investing much in the meeting. Mom looked older than I remembered. The wedding planning had taken something out of her, carved new lines around her eyes and mouth. We made small talk through salads. She asked about work. I asked about her book club. We were dancing around something, and we both knew it. Finally, over coffee, she said it. I need to borrow some money. I set my cup down carefully. How much? $15,000. The number sat between us like a grenade. For what? I asked, though I already knew. I overspent on the wedding. The credit cards are at their limits. I'm behind on the mortgage. Behind on the mortgage. Mom, who'd owned that house outright after Dad died, had somehow managed to put herself in debt, funding Derek's 3rd wedding. How far behind? 3 months. 3 months. That was serious. That was foreclosure territory. Mom, I didn't know what else to say. What was there to say? I'd warned her. I'd expressed concern. She'd called me selfish and judgmental and unsupportive. I know I made mistakes, she said, and there were tears in her eyes now, real ones. I just wanted Derek to be happy. I wanted to give him a beautiful wedding. You gave him 3 beautiful weddings. This one was supposed to last. They were all supposed to last. That's how marriage works. In theory. But Derek had never learned to put in the work, to compromise, to be a partner instead of a consumer. And Mom had never let him learn those lessons because she was always there to catch him, to fund him, to smooth his path. I can't, I said. She blinked. What? I can't lend you $15,000. But you have it. I know you've been doing well. That's not the point. Then what is the point? I'm your mother. I'm asking for help. And there it was. The trap I'd spent my entire adult life trying to avoid. The moment where I could either rescue her, rescue them, or I could hold my boundary and become the villain. I chose the boundary. You spent almost $150,000 on Derek's weddings over the last 10 years. I kept my voice level. You've paid his rent, you've covered his car payments, you've bailed him out of debt. You've funded his life while I funded my own. I'm not going to enable that anymore. This is different. This is me. I'm your mother. And you made choices that put you in this position. You chose to spend money you didn't have on a wedding you couldn't afford. You chose Derek over your own financial security. I can't believe you're doing this. The tears were falling now, real and angry. After everything I've done for you. What have you done for me, Mom? The question came out before I could stop it. It hung in the air between us, ugly and true. She stared at me. I raised you. You raised both of us, but you funded one of us. You supported one of us. You showed up for one of us. And it was never me. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. None of this is fair. But I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep Derek warm anymore. I'm not going to sacrifice my financial security for his third wedding. I stood up. My hands were shaking. I'd never talked to her like this before. I'd never let the anger out. Never put the truth on the table so bluntly. If you're in trouble, call Derek. He's the one who got the weddings. He's the one who got the support. Let him support you now. I walked out of the Panera and sat in my car for 20 minutes. Shaking. I felt sick. I felt guilty. I felt free. She texted me that night. I never thought you'd be this cruel. I didn't respond. She called the next day. I didn't answer. She sent an email a week later. I'm going to lose the house because of you. That one hurt. That one made me doubt everything. Because what if she did lose the house? What if she ended up homeless, destitute? And I could have prevented it. I called my therapist. Yes, I had a therapist. Decades of being the overlooked child will do that to you. You're not responsible for her choices, Dr. Martinez said. You didn't make her spend that money. You didn't force her to prioritize Derek's wedding over her mortgage. But she's my mother. And you're her daughter. Has she ever protected your financial security? Has she ever prioritized your needs? The answer was no. We both knew it. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, Dr. Martinez continued. Setting boundaries is healthy. Your mother is trying to make you responsible for consequences that belong to her and to Derek. You have the right to say no. I knew she was right. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two very different things. The guilt ate at me for weeks. Every phone call I ignored, every email I didn't respond to, felt like proof that I was the terrible daughter Mom had accused me of being. Then Derek called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. You need to help Mom, he said. No hello, no how are you, straight to the demand. No, I don't. She's going to lose the house. Then you help her. You're the one who got the $150,000 wedding fund. I don't have that kind of money. Neither do I. Bullshit. You make good money. You're just being petty because you're jealous. And there it was. The narrative I'd been living under my entire life. I was jealous. I was petty. I was the problem. Something inside me snapped. Jealous of what, exactly? Your 3 failed marriages? Your complete inability to support yourself? The fact that you're 35 years old and have never faced a single real consequence in your entire life because mom has always been there to bail you out? Silence on the other end. I paid for my own college. I paid for my own car. I paid for my own apartment. I built my own life without asking for a single dollar from her. And I'm not going to fund yours. Not anymore. Not ever. Mom was right about you, he said, his voice ugly. You are selfish. You know what? Maybe I am. Maybe wanting to keep my own money for my own life is selfish. Maybe not bankrupting myself for your 3rd wedding is selfish. If that's what selfish means, then yeah, I'm selfish. And I'm fine with it. I hung up. He didn't call back. Mom sent a few more emails over the following month. They were all variations on the same theme. I was abandoning her. I was heartless. I was destroying the family. I blocked her email address. Then I blocked her phone number. Then I blocked Derek's. It felt like cutting off a limb. It also felt like breathing for the first time in 30 years. 3 months later, I got a message from a cousin I barely talked to. Did you hear your mom sold the house? She hadn't lost it. She'd sold it. Downsized to a small condo. Cut her losses. Figured out her finances. Survived without my $15,000. Turns out, she didn't actually need my money. She'd needed someone to rescue her from her own decisions. And when I refused, she'd found another way. Derek moved in with Jennifer's parents. His 3rd marriage is still intact. Though I only know this through the cousins' occasional updates. I'm not invited to family events anymore. I'm not part of the group text. I'm not in the photos on Mom's Facebook. I've been erased from the narrative, which is apparently the price of boundaries. Here's what I've learned. Family is supposed to be about unconditional love. But in practice, love often comes with a lot of conditions. You can love someone and still say no. You can care about someone and still refuse to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. I've also learned that being the good child doesn't actually earn you anything. I thought if I was successful enough, independent enough, low maintenance enough, I'd eventually get the same energy, the same support, the same investment that Derek got. I was wrong. The dynamics were set when we were kids, and nothing I achieved was going to change them. Derek was the one who needed saving, and I was the one who had to save herself. The guilt comes and goes. There are days when I wonder if I did the right thing. There are nights when I lie awake thinking about Mom in her smaller condo, about the house I grew up in, belonging to strangers now, about family holidays I'm no longer invited to. But then I think about my bank account. I think about my retirement fund. I think about the life I've built without funding someone else's chaos. And I remember, I'm not responsible for other people's choices. Mom chose to spend $150,000 on Derek's weddings. She chose to put herself in debt. She chose favoritism over fairness for 32 years. Those were her choices, not mine. I chose to protect myself. I chose boundaries over guilt. I chose my own financial security over someone else's poor planning. And you know what? I'd make the same choice again. Because here's the thing. They don't tell you about being the overlooked child. You don't owe anyone your own destruction. You don't have to sacrifice yourself on the altar of family harmony. You're allowed to say no, even when saying no makes you the villain in someone else's story. I'm the villain now, apparently. The selfish daughter who wouldn't save her mother. The jealous sister who wouldn't support her brother. I can live with that. Because I'm also the woman who owns her condo outright. The woman who has 6 months of expenses saved. The woman who's building a life on her own terms. Funded by her own work. Free from the chaos that comes with Derek. 3 weeks ago, I went on a date with someone I met through a friend. His name is Tom. He's a high school history teacher. On our second date, he asked about my family. It's complicated, I said, which is my standard answer. Whose family isn't? He replied, and we moved on to other topics. Later, walking me to my car, he said something that stuck with me. You seem like someone who's figured out who you are. Like you're not trying to be anyone else. I know I am. Not the daughter who saves everyone. Not the sister who enables. Not the good child, hoping that being good enough will finally be enough. Just Sarah. Independent, boundaried, occasionally selfish Sarah, who has money in the bank and a life that belongs entirely to herself. Mom hasn't reached out in 4 months. Derek hasn't contacted me in 6. The silence used to feel like punishment. Now it feels like peace. I don't know if we'll ever reconcile. Part of me hopes we will. Hopes that someday, Mom will understand why I said no. That Derek will grow up and take responsibility for his own life. But I'm not holding my breath. And I'm not waiting for their approval anymore. The lesson here isn't about money. Not really. It's about boundaries. It's about recognizing that you can't save people from themselves. It's about understanding that being loving doesn't mean being limitless. My mother paid for my brother's 3rd wedding. And when she asked to borrow money, I said no. I said no because I'd spent my entire life watching money get poured into his chaos, while I got congratulations and expectations. I said no because at some point, you have to stop enabling people. Even when those people are family. I said no because I finally understood that I deserve to protect my own life, my own resources, my own future. And if that makes me the villain in their story, so be it. I'm the hero in mine.